we've been blessed with all the singing today, and I hope that our hearts have been lifted heavenward. Each song has a message, doesn't it? Today it is good to have Noble Roberts with us to represent the Gideons, and of course Randy is here kind of as a prayer support with him, and but we appreciate Noble. I appreciate him as family, and I appreciate him as a Christian brother and the ministry that the Gideons do, and he'll share that with us. Noble, come with us.
I need 32. I need 32. We were on the street corner handing out Bibles on a Sunday afternoon. I was in the city of Moshi, which is in Tanzania. That's a country on the east coast of Africa. A very poor nation. I wish I could open my head up and let you see just exactly the living conditions of the folks that live there. But we were handing out Bibles, and a fellow came by, and he took a scripture. We were handing out little testaments, little blue ones, and on the outside of them they had a Agano Jipya, which is Swahili for New Testament. And we handed him a scripture, and he said, "Oh, that's a Bible. I need 32 of those." And we said, "Okay, we just happen to have that many. We'll let you have them. But what do you need them for?" He said, "I have 32 children living in my home. And they need a copy of God's Word." Amen. And we talked with him a little bit more, and was so happy to give him the scriptures. And the question become, how did you wind up with 32 children? And he said, "Well, what happens in the area that I live in, any child who is kicked to the curb, or their parents are gone, or have just left them, abandoned them, or whatever happens to a child," he said, "I just take them into my home and take care of them the best that I can." And that just touched our hearts. Many of the men who were there with us was from the United States, all around the world. We had traveled there to share God's Word for 2 weeks in this country. And, you know, it touched us, and among ourselves, we decided to take up a little bit of money. We just basically, the men that were there, we just had traveling money with us, but we all had an excess of what we could give and share with this fellow. And the question become to him is, how do you do that? How do you take care of 32 children? And he said something very important to me. He said, "What I do," he said, "I get up every day and I do for the best of these children, I do the best that I can for them that day. And when I get up tomorrow morning, I'll do exactly the same thing." So he was living day by day. And you know, many times we as Americans, we live for the future. What are we going to do next week? Where are we going to go on vacation in a month? If we're working, we're planning for the future and our retirement. We're looking more to the future than we are today. And a lot of times I think that we just might miss a blessing by not living in the day. Thank you for letting me come today. It's such a blessing to be here. A lot of folks ask us, well, who are the Gideons? We're business, and we're Christian business and professional men dedicated to one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to lead men, women, boys, and girls to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And we do that in a couple of ways. The first way that we do that is in personal witnessing. In our everyday lives, these little maroon-looking testaments, we purchase these ourselves, our Gideons. We buy them ourselves, and we carry them into our everyday life. And we share a copy of God's Word with whoever we meet up with that we think that, or that God leads us to, that we might share a word of witness to, and a copy of God's Word. Up until a few years ago, I worked in a small manufacturing plant in Madison County, and I had access to a lot of truck drivers. I hope I don't offend anybody in here by being a truck driver. If you are, I love you. I love truck drivers. But, truck drivers being on the road, they deal with a lot of different things. They deal with all of the traffic, and they deal with us as drivers who get in the passing lane and we go the speed limit. And we're in their way. So they deal with a lot of different things, and they come in, and a lot of the truck drivers that came into the plant, I had contact with lots of them, and their language is not necessarily language that we would use, but any time that I offered them a copy of God's Word, it changed the conversation. I just love watching the look on their face, their countenance change when you offer them a copy of God's Word. One morning I had been praying on the way to work, God, lead me to somebody that needs you today, that needs a copy of your Word. And when I got to work, a young truck driver showed up in the parking lot. He was so distraught. He'd gotten lost getting to our plant, and he was late to his next drop-off, and he was just really agitated. And I said, sir, just back in. We'll take care of you. I'll get your paperwork ready, and we'll get you back on the road just as quick as we possibly can. And the Lord just thundered in my head, well, there he is. That's the one. And I offered him a little testament. And he took it and went on back to his truck, and I thought, well, that's all that's going to be of that. But he came back in just a little while, and on the front cover of the little Bible, there's a place in there for you to sign it that it's your book. And he had signed that book, and his name was Leo Berry III. And he said, I want you to sign that and date it on the day that you give it to me. And I did that, and the Lord just thundered in my heart. This young man has got a name that's been used by two other men. He's the third in line for that name. And the Lord just thundered in my heart, well, I'll give him a new name. And after I signed that book for him, he just went around me in a bear tug, and he said, I'm going to tell my mama what you did for me. So, made a difference in that young boy's life that day, and I'm just so thankful that we have an opportunity to do that. And that's what we do in personal witnessing, just happen upon people and that might need a copy of God's Word. We operate in 200 countries. God's Word is printed in 109 different languages so that people, men, women, boys, and girls, can read a copy of God's Word in their own language. Now, when I was in Africa, the native language there is Swahili, but they learned English as a second language. A lot of the students could speak pretty good English, the schools that we went to. But it's such a blessing for people to be able to read a copy of God's Word in their very own language. And we do that. Approximately 40 million copies last year went about worldwide. Since we've been in existence over 120 plus years, we've distributed or placed over 2.5 billion copies of God's Word. Praise the Lord. Thank you, church, for supporting this ministry. Because many times what we say as people in witnessing or talking to people or whatever means so little, but what God's Word means. When John started out his first epistle, he said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And I believe that, when we come to church, we lay our Bibles out, and we read our daily Bible readings, sometimes I don't think we give the importance to what God's Word is and what it means. Isaiah 55:11 tells us that God's Word will not return to him void. And I just have to believe that any place that it's put, that it will touch people's lives. We place Bibles as well. The distribution is when we lay a Bible in the palm of somebody's hand, and one by one, or we'll place Bibles in hotel rooms or hospitals or wherever the opportunity, doctor's offices, and we lay those down, and we trust that God will direct somebody to pick it up and read it. And that's such a blessing. We just recently did a Bible placement in the Mars Hill Comfort Inn, and we went around room to room and replaced them. Over about 5 or 6 years of the life of the Bible, they'll get kind of worn and torn, and we'll take them up and put a brand new Bible back in there. But we did this distribution, and a lot of the rooms were missing a Bible. Well, that's wonderful. We don't mind for people to steal these Bibles and take them home with them. We'll put them back. I promise you, we'll put one right back in its place. But it was such a blessing to be able to put those Bibles in there. In the life of a Bible, a lot of folks think, well, if you take those Bibles up out of the hotel rooms, what happens to those? Do you just throw those away, or are they discarded? Well, no. What happens to these Bibles is we'll take the covers off and put a soft cover around it and glue it, re-glue it on the back of the Bible where it's soft and not hard, and we'll take those to the jails and prisons, and that's where they go. And it's such a blessing. The life of a Bible goes right on and on and on, and it goes so far. For the cost of $5 per, approximately $5, this Bible in a hotel room, over the life of its Bible in there, can touch over 2,000 people possibly. And then when you take it up and you take it to the jail, there's no telling what the Lord will do with it in the jail setting. So praise the Lord for that. We thank the church for supporting us and being able to place those Bibles. We also put them in hospitals. That's a lot more difficult in the last couple of years. We really haven't been able to just go into the hospitals, of course. But I will say this to you. If you have a person in the hospital that you visit and they want a copy of God's Word and haven't got one in their room, ask a chaplain or a nurse, because we provide those Bibles to the chaplains there, and they are available. So just ask for one. We also provide copies of God's Word to the emergency personnel throughout the county. In Madison County, which is my area that I typically work in, we go to the fire departments, the EMT places, and we share those scriptures with the emergency personnel and the police and the firefighters and that kind of thing. It's a blessing to be able to do that. I like doing that, and I always encourage those folks to carry those Bibles with them, because you never know what they're going to run up on when they're making a call and going to a place that might need some real severe help. So we encourage those folks to use those as they do. We also provide copies of God's Word in schools wherever we're able to do that. In Madison County, we were able to go into the 5th grades from 1980 up until 2015. 2015, we were asked not to come. But that sounds negative, but we're able to set up at the county fairs. And I always take Bibles to the churches that I speak to, and if there's children there, I always provide them with a scripture if they'd like to take one. And I have some out in my car today if you young folks would like to have a Bible today. So just see me after the service, and I'll give you a little testimony if you'd like to have one. And we also provide copies of God's Word in colleges. We just did a distribution this past week at Mars Hill University. It's not college no more, it's Mars Hill University. And we were able to set up on the street corner there, and it was just a blessing. I love going to the college. I love giving copies of God's Word to those young folks. And it's amazing to me. You would think that college students would kind of be ill or standoffish or whatever, but on Mars Hill, the ones that take a scripture are so excited, but the ones that turn you down, as a matter of fact, I had several students tell me this past Thursday, "Oh, you gave me one 2 years ago, and last year too." So they already had scriptures from when we'd been there before, but they were so polite and so nice, and I was just tickled to be able to do that. The Gideons International has allowed our wives of the auxiliary of the Gideons to go on college campuses with us, and Kathy was able to go with me this past Thursday, and it seemed like the lady students, the girl students just took up with Kathy real well, and she was able to hand out Bibles as well. So thank the Lord for that. They're able to serve right along beside us. It's a family ministry. Kathy and I serve in the Gideon ministry together. She has her areas of distribution. I have my areas of distribution, but sometimes we get to go together. That's a blessing to be able to do that. Thank the Lord for allowing us to do that. 70% of the world's Bibles are supplied by churches in the United States. 7 out of every 10 scriptures, it goes somewhere in the world to a child or a man or a woman, whoever it goes to. 7 out of every 10 of those are supplied by churches in the United States. Thank you, church, for supporting this ministry and allowing us to go and do what we do. Gideons can go into areas in the world that the churches can't go to. You're not allowed to go. So we get in there and we give Bibles. And let me share a little something. Go back to Africa for just one more second. I was gone for 17 days, but 2 weeks we were in primarily elementary, secondary schools, and colleges. And I just loved going into a classroom, and it was, classrooms don't look over there like they do here. There would be benches, just a few benches, and those would be full of children. And the overflow children would be just sitting in the floor or kneeling in the floor and doing their lessons, doing their work. And we'd go in and with a box of Bibles, and we'd start out in the front of the room, and we'd be handing out Bibles. And to get to the children in the very back of the room, you'd have to kind of step over kids just to get to them. And the children in the back would just be kind of shaking, waiting for their turn. And the ones that were waiting for the scriptures, they'd take their Bibles, they'd open them up, and spell them.
Amen. That's right. Never.
Because they don't get new stuff very often.
That's right.
And these are new Bibles. Praise the Lord. And I just, it's touching. It's touching to even remember to this day the many students that we were able to share God's Word with. We were in a classroom, and we had just finished up. We had done several classrooms, probably about 600 students got their Bibles. And in the last one, we had gathered up what few Bibles we had left over and some of the empty boxes. Now, the scriptures come in boxes, and it was amazing to me that the teachers over there, they wanted those empty boxes. They wanted us to leave them with them because they used them in their classroom studies. I'm just telling you, they have very few things. So the teachers would want the empty boxes, and we didn't take very many of those back with us. But at this particular school, I was headed out to the car, the little car that we'd hauled those Bibles in with, and in the last classroom, this didn't happen because the kids were very disciplined. They did what they were supposed to do. Most of the teachers that I observed over there carried a stick. It wasn't a switch. Most of them were about 2 foot long. And if a student got to acting up or talking out of class, they would just whack them on the head. I said whack. It was probably just a light tap, but they got the message. But they were very disciplined. But in this particular classroom, the kids got loose from their teacher, and they followed us out to the car. And a young girl about that big, she said, "Mr. Noble?" do you have children? As a matter of fact, when they said my name over there, I would always introduce myself to the classroom. I'd say, my name is Noble. I'm from the United States. I'm here to give you Bibles. And they would just snicker. I don't know what was funny about my name, but it was funny. They just snickered all through the classroom. But this particular girl said, Mr. Noble, do you have children? I said, yes, I do. I said, I have boys, 2 boys that are grown. And she said, Mr. Noble, did you give them Bibles? And I said, yes. When they were growing up, I made sure that they had a Bible and I made sure that they went to church. And she said, well, Mr. Noble, why did you give us Bibles? And I said, because we love you and we want you to know Jesus that lives in that book, and be sure and read it. And she said, well, thank you, Mr. Noble, and just ran on back to her classroom. And I'm just special, just those special little contacts with children, and it's such a blessing to do that. A lot of folks ask us how they can help this ministry, and the first thing that you can do for us is pray. Pray for the Gideon ministry. Pray for God's Word to be shared in the highways and byways of life. And pray that we'll have enough hands and legs to get them where they're supposed to go. The last couple of years has been tough on the Gideon ministry. I'll just have to admit that with the pandemic. International travel just stopped completely. But it's back. We're back to traveling internationally now, so that's a real blessing. And we're traveling around more in the United States to share God's Word. So, and churches are opening up, so it's a real blessing. So just pray for us. Second way that you can help this ministry is through your financial support. Every penny that the church gives goes to the purchase and distribution of God's Word. Every bit of funds that the church gives us goes to that. The third way that you can help this ministry is through the Gideon card. You have a rack out in the entrance of the church. Let me tell you how this works. What I have here is an in-memory card. Say someone in your community has passed away. You can place Bibles. Now, flowers are good. Send flowers if you choose to do that, but also do Bibles. Place Bibles in memory of the person who's passed away. And now you send this card to the family or the person that you want to acknowledge that you placed Bibles. And in the envelope on the inside there, put your check in there, pay for the Bibles, and send that to the address that's on the envelope, and that pays for the Bibles. So you can do that. You can do the Gideon card program throughout the year. And we provide these cards free of cost, and they're nice looking cards. And they touch families. They touch families for whatever reason. You can send them for birthdays or anniversaries, but mostly they're used for memorial cards and that kind of thing. So just do that. The fourth way that you can help this ministry is we need men. We need legs, arms and legs. If you have an interest in becoming a Gideon, you can see Randy or myself, and we can kind of give you some of the details on what it means to join the Gideon ministry. I joined in 1998, and it's been a wonderful walk. I would like to say that I've done more than I've not done as much as I could have done, but I've done a lot of things, and it's been a blessing. Every thing that I've done with the Gideon ministry has been a blessing. When I mentioned Africa, I went to Africa in 2015, changed my life because I was able to see firsthand that the way that we live in the United States, we are wealthy people. We really are. And we have a lot of resources that a lot of these folks don't have. And it just opened my eyes. And Matthew 28:19 tells us to go into all nations, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Ghost. And I think that's what we're charged to do. Thank you for letting me come. I've got one more testimony that I want to share with you. And this is just a miraculous thing. Our men were, I'll take you back to Africa for just one more second. Our men were in a classroom. They had just finished handing out Bibles to everybody in the classroom, last classroom of the school. And a little boy in the back of the classroom said, "Sirs, this Bible is wrong." And our men said, okay, we'll give you a good one. He said, no. He said, the outside, this says it's an Agano Jipya, a Swahili Bible, but the inside print is in Portuguese. So this is a young boy, probably about 7th or 8th grader. And our men said, okay, we'll give you a good one. He said, no, I've got to take this Bible home to my daddy because he grew up in Brazil and his native language is Portuguese. And they gave, but I want one for myself, is what he said. So we gave him a Bible, and he was able to take that Bible home to his daddy that he could read. Now, out of over 600 Bibles in that school, that's the only report of one Bible going to that one student that could use it. And out of over 313,000 Bibles while we were in Africa that whole time, that was the only report of one Bible being printed wrong and going to the right person.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yes.
Now, in my head, in my mind, now this, and I probably ought to stay out of my head as much as possible, but I tried to figure out in my head, now how was that possible? How could that happen? Because I'm thinking there's a logical answer to this. And it probably just got mixed up in a warehouse or something like that. But I found out in later years that the Swahili Bibles are printed in Thailand. And the Portuguese Bibles are printed in Philadelphia. No way. It can't happen. But it did. And, you know, that's the way God works. He works things out for exactly where they're supposed to do with His purpose. Thank you for letting me come. Blessed to be here.